We are going to present the impact of Apollo 11 in the US. So, everything began with a famous sentence of President Kennedy in 1962: "We choose to go to the moon." President Kennedy wanted American astronauts to walk on the moon by the end of the 60s.
After that, the US, lagging behind the USSR, managed to take the lead in a space race with the USSR that they were clearly losing and managed to be the first nation to make a step on the moon.
So, it was Apollo 11 that was the first crew to land on the moon with the astronauts Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins. And Neil Armstrong was the first man to walk on the moon on the 21st of July 1969.
So, we're going to present the social impact in the US. With the height of Vietnam, the urban unrest, the civil unrest, the late 60s was a tumultuous couple of years in the USA. However, the space race united the nation temporarily for a very brief period of time in 1969. Everybody sort of paused and paid attention to this event.
The historian and author Douglas Brinkley said that somewhere deep in the American DNA is this belief in pioneer spirit, frontier spirit, like cowboys and explorers, like Lewis and Clark, and space fulfilled that romanticization of the American idea. They were space cowboys.
The Apollo moon missions and the hype surrounding the space race helped spawn a generation of dreamers who want to make deep space travel a reality, with or without government help. Take Jeff Bezos, founder of Amazon and the private space flight company Blue Origin.
We're now gonna talk about the technological impact. So, on the technological aspect, NASA was said to be the greatest laboratory for the modern economy of that time. The internet first saw the light in 1969, while the length between the tech revolution of the 70s and NASA had a direct link, and this made the world we are today living in. The US did not become a spacefaring nation, but the technology that took us to the moon is now pocket-sized. Those innovations were all fueled by the program that brought man to the moon, like smartphones.
NASA's Apollo program extended far beyond pride and political gain and allowed great discoveries in the scientific field by bringing back over 842 pounds of rock, core, sample, and dust from the moon. The experiments that were made are still paying dividends today.
Scientifically, the Apollo moon landings also taught us a lot about the makeup of the planet. If you want to understand what happened early in Earth's history and what may have triggered the rise of life here, you have to go to the moon, says David Kring, senior scientist at the Lunar and Planetary Institute in Houston.
As a result, the scientific data and hundreds of pounds of moon rocks gathered during the Apollo missions lift the veil of mystery not just on the moon but also on the Earth. Before the Apollo program, the origin of the moon was an enigma. Some scientists thought it was a simple asteroid drawn into orbit by Earth's gravitational pull. Others summarized it was a world of its own.
But Apollo discoveries brought geologists to a scientific consensus that the body probably formed when a Mars-sized planet smashed into the Earth, sending rocks and dust from both worlds into orbit. The debris created the moon.
NASA's latest plan is a program called Artemis, announced in 2019. It intends landing humans on the moon by 2024, with the ultimate goal of establishing a base to test space technologies and act as a way station to Mars.
So we're now gonna deal with the geopolitical impact of Apollo 11. Despite humanity's long-held fascination with the moon and the scientific potential of sending a person there, NASA targeted the planetary body for another reason: power. The US and the Soviet Union were engaged in a global struggle for dominance, everything was a competition, and space emerged as one of the most visible and prestigious battlegrounds in this existential fight. The nation that landed a man on the moon would gain an important edge in its quest to lead the world into the future.
This was war by other means, say Roger Lonius, former chief historian for NASA and author of Apollo's Legacy.
Washington pumped more than 4% of the federal budget into NASA in the early years of the Apollo program. Today, by comparison, the space agency accounts for about half a percent of the federal budget.
President John F. Kennedy's speech summoned the nation to the task. "We choose to go to the moon," he famously said in an address at Rice University in Houston in 1962. "We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard."
Now we're going to talk about the environmental impact. The space historian Ami Shira Teitel said that going to the moon gave us a whole new perspective on what our planet is and what our life means. Apollo astronauts took photos of the Earth that were credited for helping to launch the environmental movement in the 70s.
Being in space and having the chance to see Earth from above give the astronauts a new vision of our planet and the destruction made by man on Earth.
We're now going to talk about conspiracy theory, because however this symbolic event was, it was also questioned by a part of the population as soon as men returned to Earth. This questioning was influenced by the fact that the United States were lagging far behind and that it seemed impossible that in a few years it could have overtaken its adversaries.
Moreover, we are in the context of the Cold War, during which propaganda and disinformation are used by both great nations. It is therefore something normal that this favors the birth of conspiracy theories. When the United States achieves a feat, it is questioned because this feat could be a lie for propaganda purposes. The Cold War is therefore a favorable period for questioning the fact that Neil Armstrong really set foot on the moon.
So, in conclusion, Apollo 11 had a huge impact on the US society at the end of the 60s in a lot of different fields: social, environmental, technological, and geopolitical. It led to significant scientific discoveries and innovation, a new brace for the US power finally having the lead in the run to space.
Moreover, the mission made all the new generations not only to dream about space, but to have the opportunity to go there, explore the immensity of the universe. Apollo 11 surely changed the US society, but also all humankind.